d5, the Scandinavian defense. Here white has a couple of options. In most of the games, white will just take your pawn. And if you take a look at the database, 97% of the games, white will capture your pawn. I will also explain quickly afterwards what we are going to do if they don't capture the pawn. But usually they will always capture the pawn. So e4, d5, they will capture. We capture this with our queen. And then the most common move is knight c3, which is the main line. And many players play queen a5, but we are actually going to play queen back to d8, which is the Valencian variation. And this is the starting position for our opening. Of course, white doesn't have to play knight c3. They can also play other moves, like for example d4 or knight f3. But against any variation, you can always just move back your queen. There are better moves against the white's options. So for example here, if they play knight c3, you have to go back. If they play one of the other moves, you can play different lines. But if you just want to keep it simple, always move back with your queen. And that's the main idea here. You always try to play the same set of moves about approximately in the same order, so we don't need to remember a lot of. So we play queen to d8. And here white has a couple of options. We have knight f3 and d4, which are the main IDs. Sometimes also c4. I will take a look at all of them, but they basically lead to the same opening. So we're going to first take a look at knight to f3. The thing is with black, we're always going to play knight f6. So it doesn't really matter what they play, we're always going to go for knight f6. Then usually they will play d4 to get the center, and then also bishop c4. Those are like the main lines you are going to see most often. I play a specific variation of the Scandinavian where I play my bishop to f5. And that's not something you see a lot. I think if you take a look at the Masters database, this is like 7% of the games is bishop to f5. This is a really niche line, but the good thing is, if you study this system, you can play this against anything white tries. You can always play this, and you will have a great time. Your opponent will have to start thinking and use a lot of their time, and you will know what you are doing. So bishop to f5. The idea is in the Scandinavian, you always play pawn e6, pawn c6, but you don't want to trap your own bishop inside of your pawn chain, because otherwise your bishop is going to be passive and it will be hard to find anything to do with it. For example, if you play something like this, I mean, the bishop is not going anywhere. So that's why I get the bishop out here. I don't play bishop here because there are many really tactical engine lines and tricks white has. So bishop f5 is the safest option. Okay, let's continue. So usually white is going to play bishop to c4. Sometimes they play bishop d3. If they do, just capture it. It doesn't matter. All we wanted is to get our bishop outside of the pawn chain, and then we are happy. The only thing with this opening is you have to remember that this is a move. Queen b5 check. So c6 is always a move. It's good to play this early on. For example, if you play e6 here, you will get a check and you will lose the pawn. So that's not what you want. In this position, we are going to play c6 to stop this check. That is if they play bishop d3. Usually they will play bishop c4. Of course, sometimes they give a check. Doesn't matter, you can just play c6 and you got a free move. So that's also good. So bishop to c4. And here we are going to continue with our setup. We always play e6 and c6. You can actually choose which one you want to play first. But my general rule of thumb is to play e6 first and then c6, except in some specific lines, like for example, if you traded the bishops here. So e6 also stopping this this diagonal for the white bishop. White is going to castle. Of course, they also have other moves. I'm just taking a quick look at the database. It says castles is like the most popular option. And then I always play, or almost always play bishop e7. In the system, it's like I said, you can of course also play c6 if you want. You can also play knight to d7. Those are main moves. I like to play bishop e7. The reason why is white is most likely going to develop the bishop here. And I just blitz out this move when I'm playing online to defend my knight. You can play other variations, but the engine also says bishop e7 is the best. I know some players want to put it here and then try and put some pressure. But in the end, if they do pin your knight, you probably want to go back either way. So that's why I play bishop e7. This is also to bait bishop f4 on my opponent's side. So white has a couple of things they can do. Of course, they can always go for this, in which case you can just castle. Doesn't matter. I mean, if they take this, we even get some help because now we have a really good position. But I try to bait this move, quote unquote bait, a bishop f4. Why would white play this? Well, often they think they have a tactic against c7. For example, if you castle, they're going to try and capture this, and of course, you have to be careful you don't lose your rook. Any of these lines, that's just not looking too great. You can always defend, but this is not what we are going to do. I try to bait bishop f4 just simply because I'm playing c6 anyway. I know this opening. I'm a Scandinavian player, so I know I'm going to play c6, and c6 stops this knight. So here I bait the bishop, and the bishop is not really doing anything there. Also, the good thing is this knight is now free to move because it's not pinned. So I try to bait this move bishop to f4. Often you will get moves like rook e1. Here you can castle. You can also play knight here, but usually as soon as they start lining up on this file, I like to just get my king out of there and just castle. Yeah, and here it's already pretty hard to find any good moves for white. The engine is already saying this is equal. It's plus 0.2, so this is already equal. And we have our favorite setup. But there are a couple of ideas you need to know here with black. So first of all, this situation, especially the black pieces, is something you have to remember, because this is what you want to have basically almost in all of your games. Doesn't really matter what white plays, this is what we are going to play. And our plan is to also play this knight to d7, and that's just the main setup. There can be a couple of differences. For example, this bishop could be here, maybe this was traded on d3, maybe they didn't play this rook, but they played this rook, or they played the queen up. Doesn't really matter. We're always going to do the same thing with black. And for white, it's hard to find a plan, but I'm going to show you something with h3. Because many players, this is a really important trap you have to know, many players are going to try and capture your bishop. And you have to know in this opening, it's not bad if you lose this light squared bishop. We just played it outside of the pawn chain because we want to trade it for something. We want it to be gone. So if they ever take it, that's not really a bad thing. But I wanted to show you, because this is a thing that you can see a lot of the time. I think if I take a look at Lichess, I think 10% of the games even went like this in this position, where they play knight to h4. And there's a really nice trick here. Knight to h4 is actually a bad move. You can just play bishop g4, attacking the queen. And this is already pretty annoying for white, because the knight is just here on the edge of the board doing nothing, and we have some tricks moving this knight. We are attacking them, and sometimes they will play f3 to kick away your bishop, and then you can just throw back. And this position is already really good for black. The engine is even saying black is winning here, and this is something that you can get a lot, because players try and go for your bishop with the knight, but you can just do this trick. So the thing here is, this might seem a little bit innocent at first, but take a look at this knight. This knight doesn't have a single square, and that's a problem, because I'm just going to make a random move for white. We always have this move knight d5, and now we have a discovered attack here, we have an attack here, we can double the pawns, and we also attack this bishop. So that's already getting quite problematic for black. I'm just going to show you one variation. For example, bishop takes, pawn takes, but still, this is a problem. He cannot go back because, well, we can simply capture this. So white probably has to play something like g3, but I mean, we have this move, queen takes h4. So if they try to go for the early knight h4, they are actually not doing so well, because we have this move. Of course, here the engine is also saying they can just play this. Well, doesn't matter. We wanted to trade the bishop. That's what I've been telling you. Just trade it. Yeah, here, why is it going to do something? For example, this move, but then we can take this pawn. So maybe they want to do this move. But still, you see, we have some tricks here that we can use. And you can just keep it like this and just keep playing. But the thing is, we were able to exchange our bishop, and this knight is also not in a good spot. So that's just amazing. Smarter players who know how to play against the Scandinavian, they are going to play h3 because they want to stop this. And that's not a problem at all. You can just continue with your plan. So you can just play knight e7. They're going to attack your bishop. And you can leave this here, but I usually like to draw back. They will take it, and then you can take back with the h-pawn. And if you are unfamiliar, this might seem strange, but I play this all the time. It's not a problem. The position is equal, and you can perfectly play this as black. This is not a problem, because there's no way for the black pieces to ever get in here, because we are always defending this with 2 pieces. So that's something you will get a lot of the time if they play this h3 move that they exchange here. And then here, again, I don't really see a plan for white, but I'm just going to play a move. For example, queen d2. And here there are many things you can do as black. We have our setup that we wanted. We traded this. It's all fine. You just want to trade this bishop. And here, I would say you have to play in this position a couple of times to really get a feel for it, because there are many different plans here. In many positions there's an b5, but I don't like to play this too early, because those are the more tricky lines. A thing I like to do is I like to play knight b6, opening up this, attacking the bishop, and also you can already see we have a lot of pressure on this d5 pawn. And what I love to do most of all is just throw an early a5 at them, threatening to play b5. Because if I just make a random move, here we have b5, and this traps the bishop. So they will have to go back, for example here, and you can see we already have an awful lot of space here on the queen side. You can even play a4, and that's just a great position for white. So I like to play a5. Usually they respond a4, and I just leave it like this. I just leave it like this, because now I have a little bit of space here on the queen side. This is defended twice. Everything is fine. We're not going to play b5 anymore, but that doesn't matter. And here there are also a lot of interesting lines, and I love the line bishop b4 the most, because we are pinning this knight to the queen, and even if they have the queen here, we are usually pinning it to the rook as well. So that's a really good move, especially if you notice we have things like knight d5 attacking this a second time. And it's really hard to find moves here. The engine is saying moves like this are the best. Rook a d1 is something I've seen a lot. It's a move. You can always play knight b6, and as I said, there's always pressure up against this pawn, this knight, with, for example, a move like knight d5. They are not going to take it, so I'm looking to find a move for white, but it's hard to find anything really. And you don't even need to take this, you can just keep the pressure here. And in many lines you will also play a queen c7, having some pressure here, but mainly you want to get the queen out of the way so you can get your rooks involved, and then you will play down the d-file. And that's also a main idea in this position. I'm just going to make a move for white. The main idea is to play down this file. So let's say we play something like queen up because we want to stop the pin. A really common idea is to play down this file. And I'm going to say maybe rook e2 to stop the pin as well. And the idea is here you will often have a c5 break. For example, here you can also take and double the rooks. A move like this doesn't work. I'm just thinking to find anything for white. If you just take a look at this, it's hard to find anything for white. Yeah, maybe f3 to stop this, but that's also really bad because then we have this check. I mean, yeah, there's just nothing I can find. Maybe queen takes and then f3 here. That's maybe a move, and then you can double the rooks. But as you can see, it's really tough for white to find any moves. And black just has a simple idea. We trade a couple of pieces, we line everything up on the d-file, and then in many positions you will get this c5 push, and you will be able to exchange and win material down this file. Many positions you also just have b5, and you can push on this side of the board. And to further explain these ideas, I'm going to show you a couple of games I have. But that's just the main idea. You want to keep this d-file open and play down the d-file. Another thing I wanted to show you is the advanced variation. So they play e4, d5, and then they push this pawn just quickly. If they play this, you have to be really happy because this is one of the best lines in the Scandinavian defense. And the other lines, the exchange variation, there are some tricky things you need to know, but this is just easy to play. The idea is we're going to play a French defense, if you know the French defense, but we're going to have our bishop out. So usually the French defense is something like this. And the problem in the French is always you have this bad bishop, the French bishop, that cannot develop. But here we play c5, and I'm going to play, for example, knight here. But here we can develop the bishop, and you can go to g4 if you want to, or you can go to f5. I would probably go to g4 and many lines, but I'm going to show you f5 as well if you want to stick to this principle. I'm just going to say, for example, e4, e6, and this is the typical French position, but now we have our bishop outside of the pawn chain. That makes all the difference, because you can just have easy development, play queen b6, put pressure here, we can take, and then you will usually play something like knight e7. Your plan is to go here and then develop the bishop and then castle. And that's just a really good position. Black is already doing well here. Another thing you can also do is play bishop here. And the idea is to put a lot of pressure on this pawn. And they can try something like d4, but here you just have takes. Takes. And we're already winning. We're already up a pawn. So that's something I've had in games online as well, if you play the g4, bishop g4 variation. So really the exchange, the push variation or the advanced variation is not a problem. Another thing I wanted to show you quickly, before we get into the games, is also that if they play any other first move, like I said, you can just go back. You can just go back. There are better variations. For example, here bishop g4 is an interesting one. But against anything really, you can always play queen back. Sometimes I've got this move, but you actually have this move, queen checks. And if they defend it like this, you take the pawn. If they defend with the knight, you take this. And if they defend with the queen, you can also take with a check. And just play something else entirely. So that's just what I wanted to say for the main line. So there are a couple of sneaky lines you have to know as black, because white does have, I think, two main tricks against the Scandinavian. And if you know these tricks, you will never have any problems, and that's why I'm teaching you them, so that you don't run into trouble playing the Scandinavian. So the first one is what I call the queen f3 trap. So this looks normal, e4, d5, we take, knight, we go back. And here they play d4, and d4 is fine. We're going to play knight f6. But then they play bishop c4. And you might think that this is exactly the same as what we have seen before, but that's not true. Because they haven't played knight f3. And if they don't play knight f3 early on, you always have to be very careful, because there might be a queen f3 at some point. And a mistake you can make is play something, for example, like bishop f5. You think I'm just playing my theory, and then all of a sudden you get queen f3. It's not devastating yet, but this bishop is under attack, and this pawn is under attack. If you defend it like this, you're going to lose the pawn. You can also defend with the queen, but this is not what you want to play in the Scandinavian. And white has this and just a good position. Sometimes I've also seen players who just go back, but I mean, you don't want to run into this. And that's why I just wanted to show you this. Be careful if they haven't played knight f3 yet, that you don't play this. How can you avoid this? Well, just play c6. Just play c6. The first thing is they are probably going to play knight f3 anyways, and then you can just continue with your regular plan. And if they still play queen up, you have a free pawn, so that's not going to happen. If they play, for example, bishop here, you can still go bishop f5, and if they go for the queen, now you just have this pawn. I mean, there's nothing they can do. Or you could also play e6, but I mean, you have a free pawn as well. So if they don't play knight f3 early, just drop in subtly this c6 move, and then you're going to be fine. That's just something you need to know. And then also, I'm checking, yeah, this knight sack, that's also something interesting. So e4, d5, they take, we go back, and here they will play this. But here you can see they haven't played d4 yet. And that's also something you have to be a little bit cautious about. Like, they don't play d4. Okay, I'm just going to play this. And then all of a sudden you see this knight. this knight is here. And then you think, okay, I'm going to play e6, and then boom, queen f3 again. Queen coming in, queen coming in here. You might say, I'm just going to play safe and play c6, and then all of a sudden, bam, they take this, you gotta take, they take your bishop, and you cannot recapture. That's not something you want. So again, nothing to really worry about, but against strange variations, and strange meaning they are delaying this or this move, c6. Just play c6. And then after they play this, you can still play, and here you are fine. And this doesn't work, because we take a pawn for free. And that's just what I wanted to tell you, that c6 I usually play later on in the opening, but if they are delaying d4 or knight f3, you can play it earlier on, or even in general. If you really want, for example here, let's say they play d4, you can also play c6. But the thing I don't like about this is that all of a sudden we don't have the bishop f5. So I like to go for this, and then here e6. Or of course you could also, play c6 here, because again, none of this really works. So c6 is a move that I always have to play. Sometimes you have to play it a little bit earlier if they don't play knight f3 or d4 early on. And there's actually one more trick which leads to this insane position. e4, but none of these are really problems for black. So this is just, looks like a main line. So here they didn't play d4. So I would say be careful and play this move, because otherwise you're gonna get this position. This is not even really a problem. Even if you run into this, there is queen c8 defending everything, because queen c8 defending everything, because here there is actually bishop g4, but you shouldn't even get into that position if you just play c6 early on. So I play c6, and then they just continue as normal, and in some variations they can try to go for this. So first off, if you just make a random move, it's checkmate, so that's not any good. So you have to play e6, and then sometimes they will try and trap your bishop, and you don't have to worry about this, but it's something that I wanted to show you as well, so you don't run into this. If they attack your bishop, of course, we're just gonna move. If they capture this, that's not a problem. I like this position. But here, in this particular order, they can go for the h4 push. And the main thing you have to know here is you have to play this bishop d4. So your bishop cannot go anywhere. It's trapped. But the idea is we are going to escape with this square. We are going to escape with e4. And right now I cannot go there because I would just lose it. But my idea is just attack this knight. And now we can go here. So for example, if they defend, we even have this. But I mean, in general, you always have this square now to escape. You can attack the rook, and you can always escape. So that's why I like to play this early bishop b4, if they are going to go for this crazy pawn push variation. They can play f3 to stop this. You might think this is completely insane, but I have had this, I think, twice playing the Scandinavian. And this is fine as well, because here we have the amazing move knight d5, and then suddenly we have this double attack here on the knight. So if they try and push, we can just take. Of course, they cannot capture because they lose the queen. So maybe they have to recapture, but then we have a check. We have a check. What are they going to do? Are they going to play the bishop here? Well, the funny thing is you can capture here with the light squared bishop. And then you can capture a free rook as well. And like they can also just move the king, I guess. But that's also probably not really something you want to play. And also here there is actually queen d4 as well. So lots of crazy lines. If you're interested in this, you should definitely take a look. But the main thing I wanted to tell you is just play bishop b4 against these pawn push variations, and then you will have this trick. Something else you can do, for example, here if they push, is you can capture, like I said, but I have had times where they defend with the bishop. And here you might think you don't have anything at all, and then you have to know the move f6. So f6, you attack this knight, and they're most likely going to trade, and you will have this position, which is also fine to play. But that's the crazy situation, if they play the spawn push, you will only get this if someone knows you are playing the Scandinavian and they want to surprise you. I don't think anyone else is going to play it. I once had a guy who prepared this against me over the board because he knew I was going to play the Scandi. So that's all you need to know for the Scandinavian. Now I'm going to take a look at a couple of games that I've played. I have played many games in this. And I think we're just going to take a quick look at a couple of games so you get an idea for how this can go. So I'm always black in these. So this is an example of the advanced variation where I play c5. Here I went for the bishop pin on the knight, which I think is the best option. Because you can just trade and then you can get this French position, which is completely fine. And here I just wanted to show you a main idea. You can go for the knight, hop here, attack this. It's already hard to defend this. This is winning for black already. Things like this don't work, of course. Engine is saying c3 is maybe the best, but you're already giving up this pawn. So why try to defend it in a crazy way? And then game continued. I just attacked here because I knew this was a big weakness. They cannot capture me because otherwise we have queen, but we also have this knight. So that was a pretty crazy game. I took this, and then, I mean, if you just take a quick look at this, of course, this is already completely winning for black. So the game just continued, but I mean, just to show you how quickly, and here he's surrendered because, I mean, there's nothing he can do. He's going to lose material. It's -7 at this point. But just to quickly show you, if they play this, you have really nice games if they play the advanced variation. I would always say just trade this, go for the attack, and then go for the attack again, and they have a hard time defending it, and you will win a pawn. Another game I played against the advanced variation. Here they traded my knight, which is a slightly better variation, because I don't have the pressure here. And they also played c3, so they didn't know what they are doing. And here you also have knight f5. Because if I just play a random move, you can take, and we are winning material. So knight f5, we trade, and this happened. I won material, and then I got a fork on the queen. Of course he can play something else, but this is already -2, so completely winning for black. Another Scandinavian, so this is one, yeah, this is one with a d3. d3 is a move I don't get a lot, but sometimes players are a bit more passive and they play something like this. It's just worse than playing d4. So you can play whatever you want. Here I did c6, because if I play this, I get queen f3, and you can always play queen c8, but you don't want this. So I play c6, I know these lines. F5, and then just have the main plan. Nothing special. I took with the knight. Nowadays I like to take with the bishop actually. I used to always take with the knight. It's about equally good, but okay. A5, which is my move. Bishop b4. I mean, this is almost exactly what I showed you. I think except here you can go for the knight d5 move, but I also like to go for queen c7 and then set up this D line. He just went crazy with the attack, and then I played the knight d5. Yeah, but these are not really lines you need to remember, just some quick variations. Yeah, and then I got something like this, and I don't think the game continued much longer. This is already completely winning, and here I won material because he loses the queen. So just, of course, pushing this is bad, but some main ideas. The main focus here is the opening. Another one. So another d3 line. You just play standard moves. This is always the same. Here you do have g4, but it's a little bit less interesting. They can always play f3 as well, but you don't even have to play bishop g4. You can also just go back and play this line, which is fine. a5, which is what I love to play. Here they went crazy with the push, which is not so good because they're kind of overextending here, and you have this knight to d5 move, which is really strong, and they just will have an open file here, so they're going to take, but this doesn't really accomplish anything for white. Here, I think here I would nowadays just play knight takes c4. That there I made, I think a slight error with knight d5, but just to show you, This open B line is not really a problem. We just had a small dance, and then I was able to capture this B line. So also not something you have to be afraid of. Just another quick game. Yeah, so main variation here. But he delayed the D4 move. So here you could technically say C6 is the better move to play. But this is all still fine. Still standard variation. Here I played the knight first instead of the bishop, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, and then knight b6 is a main move. Here I got the bishop trade, that's a main ID. Knight d5. And then this is also something I like to do, playing bishop d6. The bishop d6, just because I kind of want to get this trade, and then I can slide back with the queen and play a rook here. So this is always something you can have up your sleeve as a quick move, d6. Then I just went after that bishop, and then I just did the main thing, like go back, and we are gonna play down this line, and I play down the line. Here I just had a trade, and now we have a lot of pressure here. Bishop is also gonna assist. Here I went back because I didn't want to trade. We had an exchange here, and then just here things went crazy. I think this was blitz game, but just wanted to show you some main IDs in the Scandinavian. Another game, quickly gonna check. Yeah, mainline stuff. Here I played c6 instead of bishop e7. I think bishop e7 is slightly better. This is not a problem, but it's better to play bishop e7. But some of these are just blitz games I played. This is not another blitz game. And this is against long castles. Okay, so long castles is really something interesting that I haven't explained yet to you. What to do against long castles. You have to completely change up your theory against long castles. If you want to. Because you can get really nice attacks. And I have played a game against the FIDE master over the board in this position, and I won it. So FIDE master, this guy was 2300 elo and I was 1800, and I was able to defeat him in this position. Because of b5. b5, which is a crazy move. If they castle long, what I like to do is just go crazy. b5, a5, and just all in. I don't even castle kingside straight away, because if you castle, it's like giving them your address. You're already telling them, hey, you can go and attack me here on the kingside. So I like to stay in the center for a while and then castle later, or sometimes even castle queenside if things get too crazy on the kingside. So b5 here I took. I'm gonna say b5. Yeah, this move, maybe it's not the best example. I think I have another one. Here he went for the knight e5. You always have to trade it. I trade queens here, and then we had this position, which was crazy as well. But the main idea I wanted to show you was this b5 play, because in general I'm gonna show you if they make another move. So often they will just try and go for your king. You just have this attack. You can actually play knight takes e4 here as well, but I'm gonna show you this attack. And then sometimes they will play h3. But h3 is not so good because you have b4, and then all of this works together. And if they take you, you can first take here if you want, and then you have a check and you're winning material, so that's also nice. I think they have to take here, this, and you can already see this is getting trouble. You might say, well, they can take you here, but you can even castle, drop this, and then go for the checkmate. This is just insane stuff. Queen c3. I mean, this is insane. And I love playing these kinds of positions. And I think this is another example, if I'm correct. Yeah, I think this is another example of queenside castle. So c6. Here I castle. And this is, you can see white already has an attack. But then we have b5. Here he wanted to trade the bishop, so I was fine. a5, a4, and I always like to play it in this line, because if you play b4, they can just drop the knight here and your pawns are just stuck. There is no way to continue. So I like to go a4, and then, for example, here b4, and then the knight is even kind of trapped. And if they go here, you can always take. If they take, you are winning this with check. So they have to do this. You even have knight f2 here, but I'm gonna say this, this, and this is also fine. And here knight f6, again you can just drop this pawn, play rook here, and this is already -7. So black is just completely winning. But I'm gonna go back to the game. In the game he played a3. They always think a3 is gonna work, but you just have b4. They take, I take, and the whole queen side is gonna open up. a3, I just keep going. He took, rook goes in. Bishop goes back. He's starting to realize that he's gonna be the one in problems. Rook a1 check. I took the rook. Queen goes in. Now we have discovered threats. He's gonna go back. Rook goes back in. We have this check. I mean, this stuff is insane. A rook here. None of these are even specifically the best moves, but I just want to show you. Here he was getting desperate, but I mean, didn't do anything. Check. I pinned the queen, and then we traded queens. And this was a pretty insane game. I was at material here, and then we have this position. But I just wanted to show you this crazy queenside attack. You just go for c6, b5, a5, a4, b4. You go all in on the queenside, and I love playing that. And this is the last game. I don't know. I'm gonna check why this is in here. I think just as a nice example, this is like mainline stuff. He's gonna play here. We want a bishop there. Castles. Against early knight e5s, you always want to play a knight e7. Just trade, it's all fine. We're gonna play down this d file as I showed you. Sometimes I play h6, not all of the times, but here I like getting rid of the bishop. And then here we're just getting rid of the bishop again. As you see, I just want to trade the dark squared bishops. And then here, sometimes you will get a position like this, but then you have potential to fight for an attack here on the queen side, because now we have open lines. And then here I just took. Sometimes they forget that the bishop is here, and then they just play a rook. But that's fine. And then you have a line like this. And of course this is also winning. So that was another thing I wanted to show you. So I hope with these videos I was able to convince you to at least try and play. I know I was quite quick with the games, but the idea is to just show you a couple of positions, drill them in your head. Maybe you can even watch the video one more time and then go ahead and play some games online, and you will be able to win with the Scandinavian defense. Good, one more shout out. As I said, I have a chess community, a link is in the description. I also have a chess book, the Pegasus system. If you're interested in picking it up, it is available on Amazon, so you will also find the link in the description. That's it for this video. I'm signing out. See you in the next one.